The Bible, which I have always maintained, is not a historical document, but a psychological drama, tells us in Proverbs, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. What is this heart that we must guard so carefully? It is not the physical organ pumping blood through your veins, but the center of your being, your consciousness, your awareness, your I am. When you focus on yourself, you are turning to the only creative power in your world. You are acknowledging that what you are conscious of being, you will express in your outer world. This is the fundamental law of manifestation that has been taught in veiled language throughout all sacred texts. Do you not know that the kingdom of heaven is within you? That you need not look to external circumstances, to other people, or to future events for your good. All that you seek is already present within your consciousness, awaiting your recognition and acceptance. The world may tell you to focus outwardly, to study the actions of others, to compete, to strive, to force changes in your environment. But I tell you that such effort is unnecessary when you understand the law of consciousness. For when you change your inner state, your outer world must conform to that change. It has no choice, for it is only the shadow of your inner reality. And what of this silence that I urge you to maintain? It is not merely the absence of speech, though that is indeed part of it. The silence I speak of is a profound inner quietude, a refusal to contradict in thought, word, or deed the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled. In the book of Exodus, we find these words, the Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. This is the true meaning of staying silent. It is allowing the law, your own wonderful human imagination, to do its perfect work without interference from your doubting, reasoning mind. How many times have you planted a seed of desire in your consciousness only to dig it up repeatedly with your doubts and fears? How often have you declared that a thing is so, only to contradict it moments later with anxious thoughts? This is the very opposite of maintaining silence. The silence I advocate is a complete mental acceptance that what you have imagined is now reality in the spiritual realm, and therefore must inevitably materialize in your experience. It is a calm knowing, a peaceful certainty that needs no outer confirmation. Let me share with you a simple technique that has helped countless individuals to focus on themselves and maintain this creative silence. When you retire at night, lie flat on your back with your head upon a pillow. Close your eyes and completely relax your body. Now bring your attention to your breathing, not to control it, but simply to observe its natural rhythm. As your body relaxes and your mind begins to quiet, turn your attention inward. Become aware of yourself as pure consciousness, as the observer, not the things observed. Feel the reality of your own existence apart from all conditions and circumstances. Now, from this state of self-awareness, begin to imagine a scene that would imply the fulfillment of your desire. See it clearly, feel it to be real, and allow yourself to become emotionally involved in this imaginal act. Feel the joy, the relief, the satisfaction of having already attained what you seek. This is focusing on yourself, on your own creative consciousness. And as you fall asleep in this state, you are maintaining the silence that allows the seed to take root in the soil of your subconscious mind. Do not wake in the morning and immediately begin to question whether your imaginal act was effective. Do not look to your external world for immediate signs of change. Instead, maintain your silence. Go about your day from the calm center of knowing that what you have imagined must come to pass, for that is the law. The Bible tells us, be still and know that I am God. This stillness, this silence is not inactivity. It is the most powerful form of action possible, for it aligns you with the creative forces of the universe itself. Consider the words of the psalmist, I said, I will take heed to my ways, that I sin not with my tongue. I will keep my mouth with a bridle, while the wicked is before me. I was dumb with silence, I held my peace even from good, and my sorrow was stirred. This passage beautifully illustrates the challenge and the power of maintaining silence. Even when confronted with conditions that seem to deny our desires while the wicked is before me, we must hold our peace. We must refuse to give voice to doubt, fear, or contradiction. Let me tell you of a lady who came to me in distress. Her husband had left her for another woman, and she was consumed with jealousy, anger, and a desperate need to take action to reclaim him. She asked what she should do. Should she confront the other woman? Should she beg her husband to return? Should she seek legal counsel? I told her to do nothing outwardly. Instead, I instructed her to focus on herself, on her own consciousness, and to create there the state of being happily married. Each night she was to fall asleep feeling the presence of her husband beside her, hearing his voice experiencing the comfort and security of their restored relationship. And above all, I urged her to maintain silence, not to speak to others of her problems, not to confront her husband or her mistress, not even to affirm verbally what she was creating in imagination, simply to know within herself that the marriage was restored in her consciousness and therefore must manifest in her experience. Within 1 month, her husband returned, the relationship with the other woman having dissolved of its own accord. No outer action was necessary. By focusing on herself, on her own creative consciousness, and by maintaining silence, she had allowed the law to operate without interference. This principle applies to every area of life. Are you seeking financial abundance? Do not focus on the outer conditions that seem to limit you. Do not speak constantly of lack or engage in anxious discussions about the economy. Instead, focus on yourself, on your consciousness, and establish there the feeling of wealth and security. Live from that state in your imagination and maintain silence as the outer world rearranges itself to match your inner assumption. Do you desire health? Then do not dwell upon the condition of your body or engage in endless conversations about symptoms and treatments. Focus instead on the feeling of being perfectly well. Establish that state within your consciousness and maintain silence as the creative law works through you to manifest physical harmony. I tell you that all things are possible to him who believes. And true belief is not merely an intellectual acceptance, but a state of consciousness, a feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you focus on yourself, on your I, and identify it with your desire, you have set in motion the law that must bring your desire to fruition. Some may misunderstand this teaching and consider it selfish or impractical. They may say, but Neville, we must take action in the world. We cannot simply sit and imagine. To them I would reply that I am not advocating inaction, but rather the most appropriate and effective action of consciousness. All outer actions, when they are not inspired by a changed consciousness, are merely futile attempts to bring about change through effort and will. But when action flows naturally from a transformed inner state, it is effortless and perfectly suited to the manifestation of your desire. I recall a gentleman who attended one of my lectures in New York. He approached me afterward and said, I understand what you're teaching, but I've been imagining financial success for months with no results. What am I doing wrong? Upon questioning him, I discovered that while he was indeed in imaginative scenes of wealth each night, during his days he was constantly speaking of his financial problems, checking his bank balance anxiously, and focusing on the gap between his desire and his current reality. I said to him, you are planting a seed with your imaginal act, but then you are daily digging it up to see if it has grown. You must maintain silence. You must stop contradicting your assumption of wealth with your words and actions. He took this advice to heart. He continued his nightly practice of imagining wealth, but he also began to focus on himself, on controlling his inner conversations and maintaining an attitude consistent with his desire. He ceased speaking of financial problems and even stopped checking his bank balance compulsively. Within 6 weeks, he received an unexpected business opportunity that eventually led to the financial abundance he had been seeking. The outer action accepting and developing the opportunity came naturally and effortlessly because it was inspired by his changed consciousness. The Bible states, in returning and rest shall ye be saved, in quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. This is the true meaning of focusing on yourself and staying silent. It is returning to the center of your being, resting in the assumption that your desire is fulfilled, maintaining the quietness that allows the seed to grow undisturbed, and having complete confidence in the law of your own consciousness. Let us now explore another dimension of this practice. When you focus on yourself, you withdraw attention from the limitations of the outer world. You cease to be mesmerized by appearances, which are only shadows of past thoughts and beliefs. This withdrawal of attention is essential for the transformation of consciousness. As long as you are fixated on external conditions, accepting them as the ultimate reality, you cannot truly change those conditions. For what you focus on persists in your experience. By focusing instead on yourself, on the reality of your consciousness, you reclaim your creative power. The great spiritual directive, go within, is not merely a suggestion. It is the only way to fundamentally change your life. For all external circumstances are but reflections of internal states. Change the internal, and the external must change accordingly. This is why Jesus taught, judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Righteous judgment is to see not with the outer eye of the senses, which reports only the effects of past causes, but with the inner eye of imagination, which sees what is desired as already accomplished. When you focus on yourself, you are focusing on the cause rather than the effect, on the source rather than the shadow. This is the essence of true spiritual practice. And what of the silence that must accompany this focus? It serves multiple purposes in the manifestation of your desires. First, silence prevents the dissipation of creative energy. When you speak prematurely of your desires or your imaginal acts, you often release the tension necessary for manifestation. It is like deflating a balloon before it has lifted you to your destination. I have observed that those who speak least of their ambitions are often those who accomplish them most impressively. They have intuitively grasped the power of silence, upholding their visions sacred and protected from the doubts and criticisms of others. Second, silence allows the subconscious mind to work unhindered. When you maintain outer silence about your desires and inner silence through the quieting of contrary thoughts, you create the ideal conditions for the manifestation of your imaginal acts. The subconscious accepts what the conscious mind impresses upon it, but this impression must be clear and consistent. By maintaining silence, refusing to contradict your assumption with either words or thoughts, you ensure that the impression remains undisturbed until it manifests in your outer world. Third, silence is an expression of absolute faith in the law. When you know that a thing is done in consciousness, you feel no need to speak of it anxiously or to seek constant reassurance. Your silence is a testament to your confidence that what you have assumed in imagination must objectify itself in your experience. This is the meaning of the biblical instruction, but thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. The closet is your consciousness. The door that must be shut is the silence you maintain against all contradictory thoughts and words. And the Father who sees in secret is the law of your own being, which unfailingly brings forth the harvest of your mental sowing. Let me share with you another example from my own experience. Many years ago, I desired to travel to Barbados to visit my family, but I had no apparent means to make the journey. Rather than focusing on this limitation, I turned within, I focused on myself, on my consciousness, and I imagined stepping off the ship onto the soil of Barbados, being greeted by my family, feeling the warm tropical air on my skin. I performed this imaginal act night after night, and I maintained silence about it. I did not speak to others of my desire to travel when I had no visible means to do so. I did not allow myself to engage in anxious thoughts about how this journey would be accomplished. Within a matter of weeks, a series of seemingly unrelated events culminated in my receiving both the funds and the opportunity to make the journey exactly as I had imagined it. The outer action, booking the passage, boarding the ship, came naturally and effortlessly as a result of my inner action of consciousness. This is the pattern of manifestation that I have observed countless times, both in my own life and in the lives of those who have applied this teaching faithfully. The inner creates the outer. The focus on self, on consciousness, precedes and determines the conditions of objective experience. Now let us consider what typically prevents people from successfully focusing on themselves and maintaining silence. The primary obstacle is the tendency to be constantly drawn outward by the evidence of the senses. From childhood, we are taught to believe that what we can see, hear, and touch is more real than what we imagine. We are conditioned to accept the testimony of the outer world as the ultimate truth. And so when we attempt to focus on ourselves, on our consciousness, we are repeatedly pulled back to external reality by the sheer force of habit. This habit can be broken, but it requires determination and practice. It requires a willingness to question the evidence of the senses and to affirm the primacy of consciousness. It requires faith in the unseen reality of your own wonderful human imagination. The silence that I advocate is equally challenging for most people. In a world that values expression, communication, and constant sharing of thoughts and feelings, the discipline of silence can seem strange or even threatening. Many feel that by not speaking of their problems, they are somehow denying them or refusing to deal with them responsibly. Others fear that by not continually affirming their desires verbally, they might forget them or lose momentum toward their fulfillment. But I tell you that true silence, the silence that follows complete inner acceptance of your desire as fulfilled, is not denial or forgetfulness. It is the most powerful affirmation possible, for it stems from the confidence that what is done in consciousness is done indeed, and needs no further effort or assertion. This silence is not the gritting of teeth against adversity or the repression of genuine feelings. It is the natural quiet that descends when you know that your desire is already yours and the only reality that ultimately matters, the reality of consciousness. Consider the words attributed to Jesus. Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. This is a perfect expression of the principle I am teaching you tonight. To focus on yourself is to enter the state of prayer, not as supplication, but as assumption. And to stay silent is to maintain the belief that you have already received, regardless of appearances to the contrary. Now, let me address a common misconception. Some may think that by focusing on yourself and staying silent, you are somehow withdrawing from life or avoiding responsibility. Nothing could be further from the truth. When you focus on yourself in the way I am describing, you are engaging with life at its causal level. You are taking full responsibility for your experience by acknowledging and exercising your role as the creator of your reality. And the silence I advocate is not an aloof detachment from the world, but rather a reverent recognition that the world is responding to your consciousness, not the other way around. It is the silence of mastery, not the silence of defeat or resignation. Let me offer you a practical discipline to develop your ability to focus on yourself and maintain silence. Each day, set aside a period of time. It need not be long. Even 15 minutes will suffice, during which you deliberately withdraw attention from the outer world and focus entirely on your consciousness. During this time, ignore the evidence of the senses. Release all concern with problems, conditions, or circumstances. Be fully present with your I am, your awareness of being. Feel the reality of your existence independent of all external factors. From this state of self-awareness, select a desire, something you wish to be, to do, or to have. Now, with the full focus of your attention, imagine this desire is already fulfilled. See it, feel it, accept it as done. As you emerge from this period of focused imagination, maintain silence about your practice. Do not speak of it to others, and do not allow your inner conversation to contradict what you have established in consciousness. If doubts arise, and they will, for all habits of thought are persistent, do not fight them directly. Instead, gently return your focus to the feeling of your desire fulfilled. Remember that what you focus on expands. So by focusing on the doubt, you only strengthen it. Focus instead on the assumed reality of your wish fulfilled. Practice this discipline daily, and you will gradually develop the capacity to focus on yourself, on your consciousness, rather than on external conditions. You will also strengthen your ability to maintain silence, to hold your vision sacred and protected until it manifests in your experience. This practice is the essence of what I have been teaching for many years, though I have expressed it in various ways and through different metaphors and examples. It is the art of changing your life by changing your consciousness. And it is based on the absolute law that consciousness is the only reality. The Bible, which I have always interpreted as a psychological rather than historical document, is filled with references to this practice. When properly understood, It is a manual for the mastery of consciousness and the manifestation of desire. For instance, consider the story of the Exodus. Egypt represents the bondage of belief in external conditions, while the Promised Land represents the freedom of knowing that consciousness is the only reality. The journey from one to the other is the process of shifting focus from the outer to the inner, from the effect to the cause. The 40 years in the wilderness represents the period of transition during which old beliefs die and new awareness is established. The various trials and tests along the way represent the challenges of maintaining focus on the inner reality when outer appearance is contradicted. And the command to be silent in various situations throughout the journey represents the necessity of not contradicting with our words or thoughts the assumption of already being in the Promised Land. This is your journey as well. You may currently be in Egypt bound by belief in the limitations of external reality. Through the practice of focusing on yourself and staying silent, you will journey to your own Promised Land, the fulfillment of your desires through the conscious exercise of your creative imagination. Let me share with you one more example that may clarify this principle further. A young man once came to me deeply concerned about his professional future. He had applied for a position that represented his dream job, but he had been told that there were hundreds of applicants, many far more qualified than he. Rather than focusing on these external circumstances, I advised him to focus on himself, on his consciousness. I suggested that he imagine being congratulated on securing the position, feeling the handshake of his new employer, hearing the words of welcome, experiencing the satisfaction and joy of having attained his desire. And I emphasized the importance of silence. He was not to speak to anyone about having used his imagination in this way. He was not to anxiously discuss his chances with friends or family. He was not even to allow his inner conversation to question the reality of what he had imagined. He followed this guidance faithfully, and within 2 weeks he received a call from the company. Despite the supposedly overwhelming competition, he was offered the position. The external action, the interview, the acceptance flowed naturally from his changed state of consciousness. This is the pattern you will observe in your own life as you practice focusing on yourself and staying silent. The outer circumstances, no matter how fixed they may appear, must yield to the power of your consciousness when you know the law and apply it faithfully. Now, as we approach the conclusion of our discussion, let me leave you with this thought. The practice I have described to you is not merely a technique for getting what you want, though it certainly is that. It is a way of aligning yourself with the fundamental reality of the universe, the reality that consciousness is primary, and that the world of the senses is its projection. When you focus on yourself, on your consciousness, and maintain silence until your assumption manifests, you are not only fulfilling your desires, you are fulfilling the very purpose of your existence, which is to experience and express the infinite creative power that is your true nature. You are here to create, to imagine, to assume, to transform not through struggle and effort, but through the wonderful human capacity to conceive and believe. And as you discover and exercise this power, you will find that life becomes not a series of problems to be solved, but a joyous journey of ever-expanding awareness and expression. The world is your consciousness objectified. Change your consciousness, and you change your world. This is the simple yet profound truth that has the power to transform every aspect of your experience. Remember the words of the prophet, "Be still and know that I am God." Be still, maintain silence. No focus on the reality of your consciousness, that I am God. Acknowledge the divine creative power that is your true identity. This is the practice that will lead you from bondage to freedom, from limitation to fulfillment, from frustration to satisfaction. This is the art of focusing on yourself and staying silent. Tonight, as you retire to sleep, I urge you to put this teaching to the test. Select a desire, something that you genuinely wish to experience. As you lie in bed, relaxed and receptive, focus on yourself, on your I am, your awareness of being. Then, from this center of your being, imagine your desire is already fulfilled. Feel the reality of it. Accept it completely. Fall asleep in this state of conscious assumption and maintain silence about it. Do not speak of it prematurely. and do not allow your inner conversation to contradict it. Do this faithfully, persistently, and with full attention to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Then observe as the outer circumstances of your life begin to rearrange themselves to match your inner conviction. For this is the law. What you focus on in consciousness, with feeling and conviction, must objectify itself in your experience. It cannot fail, for consciousness is the only reality, and all things are possible to him who believes. Focus on yourself, on your consciousness. Stay silent until your assumption has become your experience. This is the way to the fulfillment of all your desires, the way to the life you truly wish to live. For when you know yourself as the creator of your reality, you have discovered the greatest secret of existence, and nothing can ever limit you again. In my Father's house are many mansions, many states of consciousness. By focusing on yourself, you choose the mansion, the state that you will occupy. And by maintaining silence, you allow that choice to become your dwelling place. The choice is yours now and always. Choose wisely and live in the joyous awareness of your creative power. The end of all seeking is to know yourself as the creator of your experience. The purpose of all teaching is to return you to the center of your being, where true power resides. And the reward of all practice is the freedom to be, to do, and to have whatever you can conceive and believe. Focus on yourself and stay silent. This is the key I offer you tonight, the key to the kingdom of your own unlimited potential. Use it faithfully and watch as the world transforms before your eyes. For in truth, there is no power outside of you. There is nothing to overcome, nothing to fight against, nothing to fear. There is only your consciousness, your awareness, your I am, and its infinite capacity to conceive, to believe, and to experience. Know this truth, and it will set you free. Practice this principle, and it will transform your life. Share this understanding through your example, and you will help to awaken others to their own divine creative power. This is my message to you tonight. Focus on yourself and stay silent. In these simple words lies the secret of fulfilled desire, the path to your highest good, and the realization of your true nature as the operant power in your world. Thank you for your attention, and may you go forward from this hour with the confident knowledge that all you desire is already yours in consciousness, awaiting only your recognition and acceptance to become your living experience.